energy price. Japan is a substantial importer of energy from the Gulf. And we've seen President Trump last week threatened what would have been one of the largest military campaigns, or the largest military campaign since World War II, against the Iranians. And now because of that, we are in talks with the Iranians. And I think there is a chance we may have a deal today or tomorrow to open the strait and move towards a more normalized position in this conflict. And that's because their Air Force is wiped out, their Navy is wiped out, substantial portion of their missiles are wiped out. More importantly, their missile production capability is wiped out. So anything that happens in the Gulf will benefit Japan and indeed the rest of the world, Joe.
So you have Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent talking about a potential deal to open the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, that's this is from this morning on CNBC. Where are we in this timeline? And have we been here before? Is this different than the last however many times? Let's ask our friend, retired Lieutenant Colonel James Carafano, who is with us right now. Senior Counselor to Heritage President Kevin Roberts, also E.W. Richardson Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Thanks for being with us again, Jim. What's the situation right now with Iran?
Well, I don't care. Look, it reminds me, remember the old Tarzan movies where you got in the quicksand and then the more you struggle, the faster you sunk?
Yeah.
Well, to me, that's kind of the Iranians. I mean, Trump has all the leverage in the world here. And every time the Iranians act aggressive or reject a deal, Trump takes another bite out of them. And it just extends the timeline even longer, on which there actually could possibly be a significant threat to the U.S. So I'm not sure how all this unfolds. I just think the U.S. has all the cards. We're never going to $200 a barrel oil. The Democrats aren't going to all get elected and demand the U.S. abandon it. So I don't know what the Iraqis are waiting for, but every time they try to leverage the U.S., they wind up weaker than they were before. So I think what are the things that really, really matter? Progress on reconstruction. You heard we just had a agreement on the disarming Hamas in Gaza. Mm-hmm. Collective security. We see the countries in the region working closely more every day. Economic integration. We see, the Israelis actually talking to the Saudis about sharing an oil pipeline. The Iraqis cutting a major deal with the U.S. So the things that in the long term are going to bring stability and security to the region, they really matter because we've humbled Iran. Iran's not the problem right now. So I'm focusing on those other things because I think they're going to be much more consequential and much more important than what an Iran deal looks like if we ever get to an Iran deal.
Yeah, I appreciate that sentiment because I don't know that there has to be a pen and paper and a diplomatic, kind of political statement that at the end of that nice, fluffy ceremony that could be championing something like that, there's still a lot of accountability that's going to have to be implemented. I did want to shift to something. Right. I have a ton of questions about what the heck is going on in Spain, Jim. I'm watching these stories. I'm seeing these videos of the mass migrant rush to the Spanish border. What's happening there and why?
Well, this is just so predictable. Spain actually has a history of getting in a leftist government. The leftist government says, we'll just give everybody amnesty and that'll solve the problem. And then after they do the amnesty, they wind up with even more illegal migration than when they started. And that's exactly what's going on here. The president said, migration's wonderful. We love it. We're going to legalize everybody. And predictably what happens, they're getting a flood of migrants who think, one, that they're going to get legalized too, but two is they're not going to hang out in Spain. There are no jobs in Spain. They're all going to other parts of Europe, and what Spain's giving them is like an open door and legalization. So of course, and people don't realize how easy it is. So this is a small peninsula in North Africa that's Spanish territory. All you got to do is wade out into the water, swim a little bit, and then swim back on shore, and you're in Spain. And of course, 50,000 people are going to do that. And we'll see more. if unless they really crack down. So we did this in the United States. Forget about Biden. Under Reagan, we said, "Oh, we're going to give an amnesty, wipe the boards clean, and then we're going to secure the border." And so we thought, okay, at the time, this is hilarious, right? This is a huge problem. At the time, we think we had like 1 million illegal people in the country. We had 3.5 million people show up for amnesty. So 3 times the number that we thought. And then, of course, all we got was more illegal migration after that. And if you go back and ask the Reagan people, ones that are still alive, they will tell you that amnesty was the biggest mistake the United States ever made. So, when you see people saying, when I first saw that picture of those people streaming in Spain, I would have said, if this was the Biden administration and that was our southern border, we would call that Tuesday.
Yep. It looks exactly the same.
And that's what's going to happen if the Dems come back. Exactly. And if the Dems come back, the day the Dems come back, we will see tens of thousands of people walking across that border into the United States too.
Yeah, I think about that 2028 primary where the Democrats are going to have to line up on the stage. So you have the whole spectrum of whatever the Democrat Party wants to present to the American people. And years ago, when we had that in 2020, the come one, come all, like literally not the invitation, but the command, come into this country. The door is going to be wide open. I would assume that could happen just as easy as President Trump stopped it. There was no congressional legislation that was put in place to stop what they started or continued.
Free Medicare for all, no security checks, take the housing away from American citizens, take the jobs away from American citizens. Even though we have years of documented evidence of the human trafficking, the suffering, the misery, the abuse, the corruption, the detrimental impact on the U.S. economy, the left will go right back to it again. It's not even theory. It's not like theory. When you're a little 5-year-old kid and your parent says, if you touch the stove, you're going to get burned, right? And the kid, well, I've never touched the stove before. How do I know my parents are right? And then they burn the crap out of their hands. We have evidence. You will screw this country up if you let tens of millions of people walk in this country. And the left's strategy is, yes, we're going to do that again.
Yeah, that's 100% true. Is there? I think that one of the benefits of, at least geopolitically, of the World Cup was, of course, the people coming from Europe and the rest of the world to experience the United States of America and really have their mind changed as to what they've been told about the United States of America. But there are a lot of people who were discussing the immigrant situation in their European countries. And it seems as though throughout all of Europe, this is maybe the main issue that they're facing collectively as a continent. Is there a respite in Europe for common sense on these particular immigration issues?
Yeah, we have seen, I spend a lot of time in Europe with all kinds of people, not just conservatives. And we have seen the Great Awakening on a number of issues. Climate change is no. We don't need oil and gas. No, that was wrong. Yeah, we can have unlimited migration and we don't have to worry about that. There's no downside. Yeah, nobody's buying any of that stuff anymore. So absolutely. European governments are maybe slow to change, but if you look at European people, they are moving massively in the other direction. There was just this thing, a Save Europe Act, right? So they brought hundreds of thousands of signatures in the Brussels Parliament saying, we don't want illegal migration and we want you to send these people home. 10 years ago, that would have been unthinkable. You would get 5 people that would be willing to go to Brussels and say that. And now literally there's a whole mass movement of people. So yeah, people are waking up to this. This mass migration, there is no upside to this. Mass migration, illegal migration, irregular migration, the downside far outweighs the benefits. You like legal immigrants and all that stuff, have a nice day, that's why you're a sovereign country, do whatever you want. But this thing is like, don't wipe away the rules and just have a free fire zone on migration. It's going to end badly. It's ended badly everywhere people have let it happen.
We're speaking with Jim Carafano. Is President Trump's just complete and totally clear message on the issue of illegal immigration, is there a wake to that makes its way to the European shores where people go, well, look what Trump is doing, and they consider it for their European policy?
Absolutely. They said, look, this guy closed his border. And we've actually seen countries in Europe do that. They did it in Poland. They've done it in other countries. There are countries, Hungary, there are countries in Europe that have almost no illegal migration. And they can do that. So, yeah, I mean, Trump, I think, has had an enormous influence on all these core issues: family, energy, security, migration. That, yeah, you can do the right thing. And actually, you're probably better off if you do that.
Jim, I'm curious of your thoughts on the president's, this administration's efforts so far. And I would assume, when you get the super bad guys out, the president didn't say we want to deport, this small percentage of people who are here illegally. He said that if you're here illegally, you should go back to where you came from.
Right.
Do you feel as though there's some sort of nervous anxiety or anything with this administration to maybe pull back politically to soften the blow, or do you think they're full steam ahead?
I mean, I think there are people on the right and the left who are, squishy on this issue, but I don't think we're not going to see this administration or a Republican-controlled House or Senate ever backtrack on border or migration policies. That's just not going to happen.
Do you feel as though do you feel as though they need to follow through all the way if you're here illegally? Like, it is the real message that's going to resonate with those folks in other countries who are considering possibly coming here? I mean, of course you get the criminals out, but it seems like maybe you get those people out because they are criminals, not because they're illegal immigrants. Like, there's
it's important it's important to deport people here illegally. That is part of the deterrent effect. And you can't just say we're just going to deport the criminals. It doesn't work that way. The people that broke the law, you have to deport them. Otherwise, people will not take your law seriously. And it's not just us. Other countries have seen this as well. And look, you know me, I do policy, not politics, but Republicans are not going to lose on this issue. They will never, ever gain a vote by compromising on being tough on border security and migration. The great tragedy could happen. Republicans might lose control, but it won't be because of this issue. It'll be for other reasons. And the tragedy is the left will come in, and even though they have no mandate on this issue, they will just 180 every one of those policies.
Yeah, full bore. Absolutely. Jim Carafano, it's always a pleasure to have you here with us. Thanks for the time again this afternoon.
Yeah, I can't stress this enough. I used to say, people say, well, I'm not voting on this issue. You're always voting on these issues. And so you can say, I'm not voting on immigration, but if you vote these guys out, you will get right back. We will be right back where we were under Biden. All right.
Yeah, the onus is on the voter to understand that. And it's good that you bring that up 100%. Thanks for being with us, Jim. Take care. Bye-bye. Retired Colonel James Carafano with us here on the Annie Frey Show. Let's break here for just a minute.